The throne room of the Valtherian Empire stretched vast and silent, its crystalline walls refracting pale violet light across obsidian floors. Queen Myra sat motionless upon her seat of carved stone, her 4 arms folded across her chest in the traditional posture of mourning. 3 cycles had passed since the war consumed her daughter, Princess Kella, and still the queen refused to speak above a whisper. The war with humanity had begun over a mining dispute in the Outer Rim territories. What started as skirmishes evolved into full-scale conflict. The Valtherians possessed superior shielding technology and faster ships. Humanity fought with stubborn determination and tactics that seemed to defy logic. Both sides bled resources and lives into the void of space. Kella had commanded the 3rd Fleet. Young for a princess, but brilliant in strategy, she had volunteered against her mother's wishes. The battle at the Crimson Nebula became her tomb. Human forces surrounded her flagship, and in the chaos of explosions and failing systems, the ship vanished into the nebula's churning gases. No survivors were recovered. No bodies were found. Myra stopped attending war councils after that day. Her generals prosecuted the conflict without her guidance, and the empire began to fracture. Victories came at costs too high to celebrate. Defeats multiplied. The proud Valtherian fleets that once dominated 3-star systems now struggled to hold 2. On the morning of the first day of the 4th cycle, a human shuttle requested permission to land at the Imperial Palace. The request alone was absurd. Humans were enemies. Their ships were to be fired upon on sight. Yet the shuttle broadcast every Valtherian diplomatic code correctly, including those known only to the royal family. The transmission included one additional piece of information that made the queen rise from her throne for the first time in months. The shuttle carried Princess Kella. Mira descended to the landing platform herself, surrounded by her royal guard. 50 soldiers formed a perimeter with weapons drawn. The shuttle settled onto the platform with a hiss of hydraulics, its hull scarred and patched with mismatched metals. The ramp lowered slowly. A human emerged first. He was tall for his species, with dark skin and close-cropped hair graying at the temples. He wore a military uniform stripped of insignia, and he moved with the careful precision of someone acutely aware that dozens of weapons were aimed at his chest. His hands were raised and empty. Behind him came Kella. The princess looked thinner than Mira remembered. Her scales had dulled from vibrant blue to pale gray. She walked with a slight limp, and a crude prosthetic replaced her lower left arm. But her eyes were alive, and when they met her mother's gaze, they filled with tears. Myra did not remember crossing the distance between them. She only knew that suddenly her daughter was in her arms, and the queen of the Valtherian Empire was weeping openly before her soldiers and this human stranger. They retreated to a private chamber. The human introduced himself as Captain James Rivera of the Terran Alliance Navy. He stood at attention while Kella sat beside her mother, their hands intertwined. The story emerged slowly. Kella's flagship had not been destroyed in the nebula. It had been disabled and captured. The human fleet had taken prisoners, including the princess. For months, Kella remained in a detention facility on a moon base in neutral territory. The humans treated their prisoners according to their own codes of warfare. They provided medical care, adequate food, and shelter. They did not torture or execute. Captain Rivera had been assigned as liaison to the high-value prisoners. His duty was to ensure their treatment met military standards and to conduct intelligence interviews. He spoke to Kella often. At first, their conversations were formal and brief. Gradually, they became longer. They discussed the war, their respective cultures, and the mounting costs of continued conflict. Kella's injury came during a raid by extremist elements within the human military, who disagreed with the prisoner of war protocols. They attacked the facility, seeking to execute the Valtherian captives as revenge for human losses. Captain Rivera and soldiers loyal to him defended the prisoners. The captain himself took a plasma burn across his ribs, protecting Kella from an assassin's shot. In the chaos, Kella lost her arm. The attack forced a reckoning within human command. Moderate voices gained strength. Discussions of peace talks began circulating through diplomatic channels. But the talks stalled immediately. The Valtherian Empire would not negotiate while its queen sat in silent mourning, and the queen would not emerge while her daughter remained lost. Captain Rivera made a choice that violated every regulation in his military charter. He arranged for Kella's release. He falsified transfer documents, bribed officials, and called in favors from his entire career. He secured a shuttle and personally escorted the princess across the neutral zone to Valtherian space. He did this knowing he would be court-martialed when he returned. He did this knowing he might be shot by Valtherian ships before he ever reached the palace. He did this because he believed the only path to peace required the queen to have her daughter back. Myra studied the human for a long moment. His service record, which her intelligence officers had already provided, showed a distinguished career spanning 23 years. Decorated combat veteran. Exemplary conduct. A widower who had lost his own family to an unrelated conflict years before. The queen spoke her first full sentence in 3 cycles. "Why should I believe you seek peace after your people took my daughter and mutilated her?" Captain Rivera did not flinch. "Your Majesty, the people who hurt your daughter were criminals acting against orders. They have been arrested and await trial. I nearly died stopping them. Your daughter will verify this." Kella nodded. "He saved my life, Mother. Multiple times. He gave up everything to bring me home." Myra rose and walked to the chamber's viewport. Below, her empire's capital city sprawled across the valley. Towers that once gleamed now showed dark scars from human bombing raids. Entire districts sat empty, evacuated or destroyed. "How many more daughters must be lost before this ends?" she asked quietly. "None, if you are willing to talk," the captain replied. "I have authorization codes for a direct channel to our diplomatic corps. They are ready to begin negotiations immediately. Both sides are exhausted. Both sides have lost too much. Your daughter's return could be the catalyst for peace." The queen turned back. "And what becomes of you? A human captain who violated his own laws?" Rivera's expression remained neutral. "I will face military justice. Likely imprisonment. Possibly execution, depending on how the trial proceeds. That was my choice to make." Kella stood, still unsteady on her injured leg. "Mother, he sacrificed his freedom for peace. The least we can do is honor that sacrifice by trying." 3 more cycles passed. Negotiations began tentatively, conducted through neutral intermediaries. Ceasefires were declared and broken and declared again. Slowly, painfully, the framework for peace emerged. Territorial boundaries were redrawn. Reparations were discussed. Prisoner exchanges were arranged. Throughout the process, Captain Rivera remained on Valther as a guest of the crown. The human government protested his detention, but he sent back messages explaining he stayed voluntarily. His presence served as a symbol of good faith between the species. On the day the peace treaty was signed, representatives from both governments gathered in the palace's grand hall. Queen Myra affixed her seal to the document alongside the human ambassador. Fleets in 3 star systems powered down their weapons simultaneously. The war was over. Captain Rivera prepared to return to human space to face his court-martial. Kella accompanied him to the shuttle, walking without her limp now. The prosthetic had been replaced with Valtherian bioengineering. "Thank you," she said simply. "For everything. Take care of yourself, Princess. Help your mother build the peace. What will you tell them? Your court? Rivera smiled slightly. The truth. That sometimes following orders is less important than doing what is right. The shuttle lifted off, carrying the human captain back to an uncertain future. But 3 days later, the human government issued a statement. Captain James Rivera was being granted a full pardon. His actions, while technically illegal, had resulted in a lasting peace that saved countless lives on both sides. He was being honorably retired with full benefits. 6 months after the treaty signing, Kela requested permission to travel to human space as part of a new cultural exchange program. Queen Mira granted it, watching her daughter depart with mixed feelings. But she understood. Some bonds forged in darkness were stronger than those made in light. The princess's shuttle touched down on Earth at the same facility where she had once been held prisoner. Captain Rivera waited at the landing pad, now wearing civilian clothes. When Kela emerged, they embraced as old friends do. Together, they worked to establish educational programs between the species. They spoke at universities and military academies. They told their story to anyone who would listen, a reminder that peace was always possible if people chose compassion over vengeance. Years later, when Queen Mira finally stepped down from her throne, she attended her daughter's inauguration as the new Valtherian ruler. Princess Kala took the crown with Captain Rivera, standing nearby as an honored guest. In her first act as queen, Kela commissioned a monument at the palace, 2 figures, one human and one Valtherian.